Good evening and welcome to In Focus, our monthly live discussion where we explore issues that matter most to Barbadians. I'm your host, Sharifa Medford-Gilkes. Tonight we're examining the topic preparing for the world of work. As young people transition from school into employment, many face questions about developing the right skills, finding meaningful opportunities, and navigating today's evolving job market, both here in Barbados and overseas. Joining us for this important discussion, our program manager at the Ministry of Labour, Social Security and the Third Sector, Erika, guidance counsellor Donna Tull-Cox, president of the Human Resource Management Association of Barbados, Tisha, and youth representative McKena will be joining us in the second half of the program. We also want to hear from you throughout tonight's program, so send us your comments and questions in the live chat, and we'll do our best to include them in our discussion. So let's get started. Ladies, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having us.
Erika, you're no stranger to this show, so we're going to start with you. As a representative of the ministry, share with us some of the programs and services that the ministry has to help young people transition from school stage to the employment stage.
Well, the Ministry of Labour, Social Security and the Third Sector is responsible for providing decent work for all, and then that is helping persons find jobs. Our primary arm that deals with that is the Barbados Employment Career Counselling Service, which is the National Employment Service, and they will help young persons. I encourage all young persons entering the job market to go there and register. And they would basically helping with CVs and helping with some career guidance. They also would help them in terms of where there's local employment opportunities and also overseas employment, so they could apply for vacancies and so on. And now we also have an online service with the Barbados Job Register that's available on the barbadosjobregister.gov.bb. That they can sign up online. So that's one of the main services that are available to young persons. We also have the National First Job Program, Job Start Plus. This initiative is targeted to youth, so we try to help young persons 16 to 24 years. We go up to 34 years for those with disabilities. And basically is a program where we do world of work training. So this is training to help them prepare for the workplace, make sure they have core skills that are needed, are in demand by employers, to prepare them for the job search, so they do resume writing, interview techniques, and so on. We also include a lot of career guidance in that program, and that's run for about 3 weeks. We also do more focused career guidance where they'll have one-on-one sessions with career advisors. And then they become a part of a pool where we are constantly looking for employment opportunities. So we go to employers and market the program, encourage them to give the young persons in the program a chance. And it is either done as placements, which is a minimum of 3 months, but we try to get every young person in the program up to 1 year of work experience. Or what has been happening more so is employers now are using us like an intermediary. So when they have vacancies, they would come to us and say, well, we have this vacancy in this area. You could submit some young persons, and we would submit them, and they would be considered for those opportunities. So they'll be hired directly for employment in that way. So that is one of the those are the main services and initiatives available for the Ministry of Labour.
What has the response been like from both the young persons and the employers?
Oh, very good. The young persons, we always have, our program is open all throughout the year. It's never closed. It's not like a registration period. And we have persons registering all the time. We work through that pool of registrants with the training that we do, which is the first part, the mandatory part, and we do that training essentially 9 months out of the year. We do three cycles, each 3 months each. So one cycle runs from May to June, July. Then we have September, October, November, and then we have January to March. And we have had huge response from young persons. Anytime we promote the program, there's persons signing up, young persons who now finishing some kind of education or training and want to go into the job market. We have some young persons who have been unemployed for a while and want some help. Some who did have a job but now are unemployed. So we always have that great response from young persons and parents and colleagues and so on who refer young persons to our program. On the employer side, we have had a lot of support from different sectors, particularly hospitality. We had a lot of uptake there, wholesale, retail trade, so sales assistants, opportunities, shop assistants, warehouse assistants, those kind of things. And in manufacturing, so like production work. So we have had some good support from the private sector, but we need more. We need more opportunities for the young persons to help them get the experience. So we're always appealing to employers to please partner with us, help us to transition these young persons. We will work with you and support the entire process. So we're always on a constant look for employers.
Okay, thanks for that. And I hope our young viewers have heard the list of things,
Yes.
opportunities that are out there for them to help them with this transition. Thanks for that. Mrs. Tull-Cox, good night. Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Great to be here.
Career guidance, let's talk about that and how important it is in this transition period.
Okay, first of all, career guidance does not just start when these students are about to leave school. Career guidance starts much earlier, sometimes even in primary school, by just getting students aware of the fact that there is a difference between just, having fun and having work, and what different types of jobs that there are out there. Now, at the secondary school level, our main push happens around third form, when students have got to choose their subjects for fourth and fifth form, which in turn prepare them to go into certification or into an area that they are interested in. So in order to help facilitate that, the Barbados Guidance Counsellors Association, we have the National Career Showcase, and that's running 19 years. This year was 19th one that we've had. And initially, what we used to do with that is we would get people from the public sector, all the public sector officers and they would come and display their work situations. What do they do? So you have everyone there from agriculture to meteorology to clerks in different agencies. And the students will be able to go and see what all of them do. From immigration, customs, the police, BDF, everybody's there. We also, along with that, would have had the tertiary institutions, because those are the agencies who would give additional training where it was necessary for certification. Originally, it was third formers and fifth formers who benefited from this. Now, it is primarily third formers who we can cater to. And so with that, then we also have within the school system, for the actual school leavers now, there's twofold that a lot of schools have. Overall, through the association, we have the summer internship program, where once again, we tap into the public service and we are able to place 1 or 2 students from each of the participating schools into a 6-week summer internship program. Right now we've got students in immigration, we have students working in MRD, we have students working at all the different branches. And they're doing everything from clerical work to marketing, depending on who they're attached to. And so that's really, really fantastic for them. We also have in many schools, for the upper 5th classes, for those schools who don't necessarily have 6th forms, we have in some of the schools the situation where 1 day a week in upper 5th form, going after CVQs, you are placed in a job environment. So instead of coming to school that day, you will go to work, but then you come back, and we help them in those areas to develop the discipline that's necessary, because before we are placing you in a situation, we're actually giving you guidance on what to expect, how you should conduct yourself in this situation. We have the mock interview. We've got the CV that we help write. And we've actually, in some schools, have people come into the school to show them and give examples of how to write the CVs. also within the school itself, in certain classes, in English, it comes up regularly, how to write a CV, and sometimes in the business classes as well. On the note where we're trying to prepare people for the world of work, a lot of it does not just start with the skill, it starts with attitude. And what we've been finding through because I look like a spring chicken, but I've been around since the inception of guidance counselors in the schools. And what we've noticed over the years is that students have moved away from the, yes, I need to have a job to contribute, to I just want some money. And a lot of our students are looking more at not just an entrepreneurial injection or jump into the world of work, but a lot of people looking at a hustle. And that's the difference between, preparing to work for an employer and going out there to hustle for yourself. So we're trying to cater to everyone, because whether you are trying to get a job with an employer or hustling, you still need to understand how to communicate with people. You still need to understand how to deal with people in the social milieu, and you need to understand finance. So we do a lot of that within the secondary school.
Okay, thank you. Tisha, good night.
Good night.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. You're on the hiring side of this activity. So tell us what you're seeing for the young persons now coming into the world of work, or what you're hearing from your co-workers, your colleagues. We have so many programs here.
Right.
Are you seeing the results of these initiatives when these people come to you for a job?
Well, I would say that what we're seeing as we're hiring and with my friends and stuff and HR professionals, a lot of young people are coming into the workplace, and it's great that we have programs like these. Not everybody is able to do it at the same time, and what you're finding is that some of the persons coming into the workplace are not prepared for the world of work. And the issues that you're finding is that they don't always know how to adhere to some of the rules and the policies of the organization that they're coming into. So for instance, you have to be at work for 8 o'clock. And someone I literally heard someone say, but why should I have to come to work at 8 o'clock? This is not for me. And they don't come back. And you find that a lot of people, some offices can be very stringent, and they have certain rules, and they don't want to adhere to that. So you will find that I have friends in hospitality. They will say, well, someone will come to work today. You speak to them, correct them about something, and they're just like, well, they go into lunch and they just don't come back to work. And so you're finding some of that in the industry. And it's not all bad. You have some really good young people who come into the workplace and are excellent at what they do. They enjoy the work, they want to learn, they want to grow. And you do have a small minority who are going to, not really do something outside of the norm. And I think it's really the preparation and the expectation of what work looks like, because it's work. It's not easy stuff. You come in, you have to do reports, you have to know what you're doing. And some organizations also prepare their workers, so having a good onboarding program as an employer is really, really important as well. And it's just really giving that young person the opportunity to have someone to guide them through their career as they're starting off in any organization. And even when I started with my career, my job currently, I had someone who was with me for 6 months, helping, because we have a big organization, so just helping us to navigate some of the intricacies of the world of work. So young people also need mentorship, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. I believe that it's one of the key things that will help to bridge that gap between what they learn at school and what happens in the workplace. And putting those two things together is really, really critical in order for them to succeed within the work environment.
Okay, you would have mentioned, Mrs. Tull-Cox, about the program starting from third form, the career showcase from
Yes.
third form. But based on what she's saying, it seems like children, or young people, sorry, should be educated about it earlier, but without scaring them so much about the reality of the world of work. How do you balance that?
Okay, first of all, before you can leave school, you need to make sense of the discipline that it takes to complete even the basic assignments in school. And a lot of students, unfortunately, seem not to want to devote the amount of time and energy, because everything comes so easily these days. All right? So I find a lot of students will tell you, I don't want to read that whole book. I can just go and Google what I want to find out. But in reading that book, it develops the part of the brain that helps you to be able to understand discipline and to be able to understand and cope with expectations. So a lot of the times people are trying to short circuit the ritual of learning by just doing everything very fast. So by third form, all of the students in secondary school would have been exposed to all of the subjects in secondary school. But from third form now, you're going to be streamed based on your interests, based on your capabilities for specific things. The basics are still going to be always there. You always have to do your math, you always have to do your English, but you may be more inclined to do sciences. Somebody else may be more inclined to do business. And then there are others who are more inclined to do vocational things. So the streams are there. However, in all of these streams, you still have to apply. You have to do the work so that you have the development, not only of the skills, but the brain. And I find that that is what is really taking a while for just to sink in, because when you look around, everyone's on their phone. Everyone is seeing the fast life. You know, you don't have to do all of this to get by. So by the time they get into the real world of work, where mommy and daddy aren't giving them $15, $20 a day to go to school anymore, you know, and they've got to start to earn, it's like a shock. You know, when people are not accustomed to being told, no, this is the right way, because sometimes I'm finding that, especially these days, people seem to be afraid to actually offend someone by correcting them, especially younger people, okay? I've got children, well, had children, my children are grown now, but you know, there have been times when they would say, Mommy, I hate you. So what? You need to do this. And at the end of the day, they may hate you, you still love them, they love you, but they're angry at the time. Don't be afraid of the anger, you know? So for what we do from third form, it helps them to get all the way through the fifth with making those decisions about what subjects they're going to take for their certification. But high school is not the end of where you actually have your learning. We advocate lifelong learning. So you may get out of school with 5 certificates and then find that there's something that you've never even heard of before. And how do you apply yourself now to studying that? That's where your brain development comes in to help.
Well, that is a nice segue into why I have to ask about the experience, because you have the training, we learn about the etiquette, we learn about the application process, but then the particular job you're applying for is asking for the experience. I mean, we would have discussed this before, but what do you do then? I don't have 5 years experience, but I have the qualifications to do this job. What are the young persons supposed to do at that point?
Well, I think what I recommend as well is trying to volunteer and to gain experience, whether you are, you know, and in some, or look for internships where possible. And we need more employers to provide internship opportunities for youth to get experience. And so even when you get into HR, you know, most times when you get into HR, you have to have some sort of experience. And I had a friend of mine, and she said, but Tisha, how can I get experience when nobody is giving me the experience to get the job that I need the experience for? And, you know, I said to her, well, there are ways that you can do that. You have to volunteer your time. So she volunteered with an association doing HR for free, and she was able to build experience that way. And it may not be the way for everybody, but I think internships, apprenticeships, looking at those types of volunteer at church, and even in school, you know, you're volunteering to lead clubs or part of a club. All of those things build experience. And then in school, you have to teach them how to correlate what they have learned in school and the transferable skills to go to the workplace. And you can write your resume based on that to showcase what skills you have. And the employer might say, okay, well, this is someone who I would like to see, and interview them, and then find that, yes, this person is someone who we can hire and give an opportunity to. And people, sometimes you just need a break. You need an opportunity. And I know it's hard out there because the job market is very hard. But I think setting yourself apart by doing those little things and looking for opportunities to really give back and to really put yourself in the way that you can get those quick breaks would be very helpful for young people.
I think the ministry would have had something similar ongoing that would have allowed persons to experience this kind of volunteerism while giving back and learning on, it was a give back program, I think.
Well, it's not the Ministry of Labor specifically. The Give Back program is, I believe, UE.
Okay.
But it is based on the same premise that volunteering matters and there is growth to come from that. And even in Job Start Plus, we try to reinforce that and encourage them to do more of that volunteer work, because it is an opportunity to gain valuable skills and experience, and is also a great way of really getting a better understanding of the work in the world, right? So what would add to the conversation is saying that we have to understand what employers ask for experience. They ask for experience because they need to know that you're going to be able to function in your workplace, that you're going to be able to have the maturity. That's usually concerned with employers and the right attitude. And they figure, well, if you have some experience, there's a good chance that you'll have those things. So opportunities in extracurricular activities in school are key. They give a lot of exposures, like Girl Guides and Scouts and so on, Key Club. They are great ways of getting experience. The volunteer work, then any opportunities for work-based learning, like internships or job attachments that may be available. Embrace those and make the most of those. And as Tisha mentioned, sometimes if you have an area that you definitely are interested in, going to an organization and asking, can I work here during vacation, even for free, just so you could get that exposure, that experience. All of it is very valuable. And we are working in terms of strengthening the apprenticeship system, because that's another great way of gaining experience while you're learning. So it provides work-based learning and also institutional learning. So apprenticeships is a good approach to entering the job market, and I would encourage all young persons to look at what is available in the current apprenticeship system and what is going to be coming on board, and consider that as a way of entering the job market.
Okay.
And I'd like to add to this too. Many times students will go to the guidance counselor saying, well, how do I get experience? Then we sit down, we talk with them, and we realize these children have more experience than they actually understand that they have. From working in stores already, helping family members, from gardening, farming, from mechanics, cleaning, from their side hustles and entrepreneurial situations, they actually do have more experience than they know. So sometimes talking with the guidance counselor will help them to understand, yes, you have experience in these areas. And then we get into how much time of experience. Well, you might be 14 years old, but you have been doing this for the past 3 years. So you have 3 years experience and you can actually describe what you do. So many students just assume that because I am not 16, because I haven't had a job where I have to pay NIS or anything like that, I have no experience. So sometimes sitting down and talking with the young person to help them understand that what they have been doing, if they have been doing something, counts as experience.
Okay, thanks for that. We actually have a question coming in for you, Ms. Tull-Cox. This one is from Future Bliss 246. Do our schools really prepare students for the workplace, or are we still teaching for exams instead of careers? Thank you for that question.
That's a very good question. Some people in school are asking that question as well sometimes. The truth of the matter is this: school is supposed to prepare you for to take an opportunity. It's supposed to prepare your mind. So whether it is choosing, say, home economics or vocational or sciences or whatever, the opportunity for you to get that basic information is there. Okay? Now, there are some students who will study for the exam because they just want to have the course. Some other students are genuinely interested. And for those who are genuinely interested and apply themselves, they will gain greatly from the exercise of taking those subjects in school.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's talk about resumes. Okay. A very important part in the hiring process, and something I don't think, well, I didn't pay a lot of attention to it growing up. Tisha, we were talking about it earlier, how people write resumes. What are some of the things you're seeing and the mistakes you're seeing and how they can be corrected?
So your resume is really 1 or 2 pages that you will send to an employer to showcase your skills. Some of the mistakes we see on resumes would be people putting their personal information on it. So their date of birth, marital status, number of dependents, etc. And we've moved away from that type of resume. Your resume should really be focused on your skills and your job experience, as well as any volunteer opportunities and educational background. If you've completed secondary school and you've moved on to university, typically they say that you don't need to put your secondary school, but I know Barbadians are very, very, very tied to their secondary school. So if you went to Combermere, sorry to Combermerians, or went to QC, or went to whichever school, you want to put it down because that's a sign of pride for you. But you typically don't have to do that if you're at university. An employer is going to look to see, okay, that you've completed. Obviously, if you get to university, 99% of the time you've completed secondary school. And so some of the other things I would say is you want to make sure that you have a great intro into who you are. So maybe a great opening statement or professional summary, just to say who you are, what you want to do, and why you want to work at this particular organization. Then you look at your skills. What skills are you bringing? And we look for soft skills. Everybody is coming out of school with the same amount of skills, leaving university with the same technical skills, but your soft skills will really set you apart. So things like communication, teamwork, how you collaborate, how you handle conflict. Now that is really important in the workplace. And so when you can highlight those and demonstrate that you are, things like adaptability, those core skills that you learn, once you can demonstrate that in your resume, and then move on to your work experience. Now, if you've just left school, you probably don't have any work experience, but maybe you formed a club, or maybe you started a business in school. I know lots of students sell, fruits and candy and snacks and stuff at school, although anyway, that's a different story. But you're starting as an entrepreneur, and even with that, you can utilize that experience to show how you ran a business, you're able to balance, you're able to buy stock, you keeping inventory, and all of that is experience that you can translate into the workplace, because that's something that an employer would look for. And then you talk about your educational background, and then if you want to differentiate yourself on your resume, you may talk about a hobby that's of interest that may be outside of the norm. And an employer may say, oh, this person knows how to paint, or something weird like that, right? And when you put that on your resume, then you can see that an employer will say, okay, well, maybe I will give this person an opportunity. Now, I don't recommend, that you take your resume and you just email 50 employers at once. And 1, you don't blind copy. We know that you're doing that. And 2, you have the wrong email or the wrong person's name on it. I don't recommend that. Your resume and when you're job searching should be very, very strategic and very focused and customized. So every job that you're applying for, your resume should be tailored to that particular role. So let's say you're going for a sales assistant role. You want to ensure that you highlight your customer service skills, focus on your soft skills, as well as your ability to sell, right? And so you want to translate that on your resume. But sending one resume and then you email everybody out, employers don't like that, because we know that you're not taking the time to really say that you really want to work at this organization. If you can find out the name of the hiring manager or the HR person, you want to say, dear Miss Tull-Cox, I'm applying for this particular role. Mrs. Tull-Cox will be very, very happy to know that you took the time to research that she is the person that you need to send it to. And so those are just some tips I would recommend for the resume.
That's a lot. Yeah. And young persons listening now might think, you know what, I'm just going to let AI do my resume for me. How are we going to handle those persons that are going to do the nice, pretty resumes with AI?
Yes. So we see the AI resumes coming in. What we are doing in HR now is moving to more skill-based assessments. So you send in your resume, it looks great, ChatGPT, Claude, whomever have done your resume. They come in, we say, okay, this person looks like they can do something. And when you come into the organization, you may have a skill test to do, whether it's a typing test or whether you have to do formula in Excel, or whether you have to I don't know, close a sale or go out and do something, some sort of test to say that what is on your resume, you can actually do this particular thing. I have a friend who is in HR. Her HR, when she interviews for HR persons, when they come in, they have to do something like maybe create an onboarding plan or create something that shows that you have the skills in HR to even do the job. And so a lot of skill-based assessments will start taking place and start taking shape, and to really separate those who are using ChatGPT to write their resume or hiring resume services to ensure that when you come into the job, you can still actually do the job when you get there.
Is this something we prepare kids from school?
Actually, in English classes and also in business classes, they do have assignments and classes on the resume and difference between a resume and a CV, all that.
What is the difference though?
So a resume is really, so the CV is from a Latin word, it's called curriculum vitae, and it means the circle of life. And it just kind of encapsulates what someone would have done over their career. Usually used in academics, for academics, or if you're going to university and you're preparing like for a big, like, you know, you're doing your master's, that kind of thing. Whereas most young people would use a resume, which is just 1 or 2 pages, just highlighting your skills and the responsibility and your job duties that you've completed over the years. So somebody who's an entry level would more use a resume, and that's the term that we would use, and a CV would be for somebody who is more experienced. And there are different types of resume. So you have a chronological resume, you have a functional resume, and then you have the combination resume, which most people typically use.
Okay.
And the all-important part of the resume and the CV, in my mind, is that area called references. Right?
Well, I don't personally, I don't call any references on a resume, because it's usually someone's aunt, granny, uncle, whatever. When I look for references, I will look at your last place of employment, yes, and I'm going to call your supervisor to ask what was this person's work ethic like in the organization. Because 95% of the times when somebody puts down, and it's not all the time, but most of the times when they put it down, it's not a supervisor. And I want to know that if you're coming into my organization, what was your work ethic? Were you coming to work on time? Were you collaborative? Did you have any challenges in the workplace? And that kind of thing. And sometimes I would even ask for a peer reference for a co-worker, depending on the level of the job that we're interviewing for.
Okay. Well, for school leavers, school leavers, the references will normally come from either the teacher or the principal. So, and if you were connected to an extracurricular activity or a service organization, we would suggest those as references. It's interesting to know that they're not always looked at initially, but at the same point in time, it gives the student that push to do the right thing, so that they develop that whole social and relationship situation, which is a soft skill that we really need them to have.
And the good thing about that as well is that when you have that connection as well, they should always make sure that they ask the person who they want to give them the reference permission to put their name down on the reference. Because the one thing you don't like is when you put it down and you go, well, she was a terror schoolboy or something like that. You don't want to have that. So you need to get permission as well from the person you want to put down as a reference.
Yes. So we're going to touch on resumes probably in the second half of the program. But as you can see, we're having a very engaging discussion, and there's still much more to come. So stay with us as we continue exploring how young people can better prepare for the world of work and take advantage of employment opportunities available at home and abroad. So don't forget to send us your questions and comments. We'll be right back.
My name is Anthony Husbands. I'm here with my team, my full team. I try to assist them best as possible, focus around lighting and stuff like that, setting up the equipment, we do our usual testing and stuff like that before we actually get to go to the public of themselves.
Country, I know that people can see workers coming in.
Yeah, teleprompter ready. Talent. 9, 8, 7.
Thanks to BGIS. That's what we're about. Barbados Government Information Service.
reason I joined the DEO is because I wanted to make a difference within my community and somewhat give back to this island, Barbados. Disaster management is a passion of mine, one of them, and I think that it is much needed. We look at disasters as hurricanes only, but a disaster is more than a hurricane. You know, we can have natural and man-made hazards which can incur flooding, we can have the hurricanes, and we can have accidents, oil spills, you name it. Anybody can volunteer, whether you be a first aider, a nurse, retired police, retired fireman, and just want to give back to your community.
When disaster strikes, DEO volunteers are the first help that may arrive in stricken communities. DEO volunteers can be the difference between total catastrophe and simple misfortune. Be the difference in your community. Join the DEO in your area today.
Just a Conversation, the podcast where we discuss the topics that matter to you.
From real stories to real talk, we dive into everything. No filters, no fluff.
We're talking about the issues you actually care about. Finance, mental health, sports, entertainment, and so much more.
It's not just talk. It's conversations that bring us together, challenge us, and keep it real.
Don't have time to watch? No problem.
Just turn on the video while you're cooking and we'll keep you company.
Listen on your morning commute, while you work out at the gym, or even when you get home on evenings and chilling out.
Wherever you are, however you listen, this is your space for real conversations.
Join us.
Join us.
Just a Conversation.
Available on all streaming platforms or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media at GIS Barbados to share your thoughts or to stay connected.
Yearly, the Caribbean faces the threat of storms, killer hurricanes, and other natural disasters. Impact of climate change, the trend is predicted to increase. What would you do if Barbados were impacted by a hurricane? How would you survive?
Sharifa, to you.
Okay.
Welcome back to In Focus. If you're just joining us, tonight we're discussing preparing for the world of work with our panel of experts sharing valuable insights on building career readiness, developing workplace skills, and identifying employment opportunities. We have some questions coming in from our viewers. However, we're going to start with our new guest, McKena Rock, who's going to talk to us about her journey transitioning from student to the world of work.
Hi, so as she said, my name is McKena, and I studied at the University of the West Indies. And following that, for me, it was kind of difficult getting into the world of work, in that there were places you had to apply. To me, there wasn't any knowledge on the workforce. So it seemed like a new background, just trying to figure it out. During that time, though, I was interested in baking, and I started my baking journey for a couple of months. I actually graduated in October of 21. Following that, then I applied various places, had various interviews. And as you know, sometimes as a young person, you may think, I applied this place and I should get through because I have the qualifications. But then there was the turn down. So it could be a point of disappointment at some time. However, then in February of 22, that's when I really started my work journey in the finance industry.
Okay. So when you felt disappointed, did you have a mentor? Like, what kind of guidance did you have to keep you back on track, to help you, be motivated to keep going forward?
Well, my parents were really my mentors, so they are really my backbone, and they would typically say to me, well, that opportunity wasn't for you. The Lord has opened the doors that need to be for you, and in the end, you will recognize that helps to build character. You get to realize not every door is to open for you. The right door will open, and that's where you will gain your experience.
So what way did you go into baking and not just continue just searching? What led you into that entrepreneurship side?
Well, the baking was more so of a hobby. I always enjoyed baking with my grandmother, with my mother from young. And in 2020, during COVID, the supermarkets locked down, shut down. And I remember sending my father a list. I went and I said I wanted to try this cheesecake for my mother's birthday. And I went on Pinterest and I looked for this recipe, and I sent him the list. He went to the supermarket, he bought these ingredients. And I tried the cake and it come out. And then in that same year, I did it again for my birthday, and my friends tasted it and they said, but it tastes real good, you should try selling it. And I just went with the flow and started selling it. So really, I'm a self-taught baker. Okay. From my grandmother to my mother, they showed me different steps in the baking journey.
So you didn't want to continue along that journey?
Yeah. I still bake in between, not heavily. I would do various different specials. Now I do different cheesecake cups and different small desserts, but I always like finance, so that's where my focus was. But the baking is more so of a hobby, and then I would do that as a side quest.
I ask all of this because for those persons who have left school just like you and are not getting the callbacks or getting the turn downs, as you would have mentioned, this is another avenue that they could look at rather than just sitting at home and, wasting away the time.
So something my father always said to me is that nothing beats a skill. So while you may have education, skills are very important, because there could be a point where you are terminated from your job. It may not be that you're not good at your job, but at that point in time, there may not be a need for you. At the same time, I don't think that should throw you into a state of depression, but look for different avenues to try, test different things. And I think that's where you get to explore yourself. And I think that entrepreneurship actually causes persons to really dive into their self, to really know who they are as a person.
Okay, thank you. We're going to hear more about your journey, but we have some questions coming in. Our first question is from Shanice B. Has enough attention been given to vocational and technical education alongside academics? Thank you for your question, Shanice. I open this to the panel.
Erika.
To some extent, there's major developments that has happened in the school system with the introduction of national vocational qualifications and so on. And we would like to see it being more competency-based education training being delivered at the schools across the board. The basic education is critical because it gives you that base knowledge. But specific skills, specific competencies related to occupations, that is also key. So it would be great if we can have more of that in the schools. As I said, we're looking seriously at modernizing the apprenticeship system, and a big part of that is going to be looking at strengthening what is called pre-apprenticeship. So that's where we would be looking at in the schools, introducing those kind of skills training, also introducing certain areas of knowledge that is critical to support vocations and so on. So that is some improvements that will be coming down the line, but there is room for improvement, without a doubt.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is from Edges. As AI becomes more capable, what uniquely human skills will employers value most? Tisha.
So I think that's for me. That's a great question. I think some of these skills, the human skills that we are going to value most would be, as I said, really soft skills. A lot of things that fall back into things like empathy and the ability to communicate. I mean, there's no AI that can replicate, you know, having an employee who has lost a family member and, you know, giving them comfort. Right? So one of those, I think that's the most important skill that we have. We'll always have our innate abilities inside of us and our soft skills, communication, but empathy, I think, is one of the biggest skills that we definitely want to hone in on. Okay. You can teach people empathy.
AI can't do that.
And I would like to add to that, because from the Ministry of Labor's perspective, AI is changing the nature of jobs, and technical literacy will be very important, because most jobs will require some level of technology and utilizing even AI in certain ways, right? So technical literacy is very important. And from our research, as what Tisha said, well, she says soft skills. We prefer the term core skills. Okay. But the core skills are definitely still very much in big demand. Communication skills often come highly rated in terms of in demand. Problem solving, emotional intelligence is always something that is raised by employers as critical. Conflict resolution, the analytical skills, problem solving, and so on. So those core skills will remain key and will always make it that humans still need to do work.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's only for persons who are going into corporate. I think every job that you go into, whether you are a sales assistant, you're a mechanic, you're a plumber, those core skills
or
still
even
always,
entrepreneur.
or an entrepreneur, those core skills will always be at the forefront of it. And it's something that, you know, we have to continue to teach our young people. And I mean, we're in this generation where everything is so technological that we still have to remember that, you know, they have everything in the palm of their hands, and utilizing that tool, that phone, that tablet, really for educating yourself. There are programs, you know, out there that allow us to have those skills, develop those skills, and I think that's really important for our youth.
Okay, thank you for that. Our next question is from Beatrice McCarthy. When I was in secondary school, my guidance counselor organized 2 years of internships. Could this type of internship initiative be embedded into the curriculum for 5th and 6th year students to provide them with practical work experience before graduation? Mrs. Tull-Cox would have been perfect for that.
To answer that question,
however,
yes.
I think we can still.
I think that's a good opportunity, because one of the things that we were speaking about is really getting experience for young people. So if there are opportunities for that program to be expanded and we can develop youth to have that 2-year experience before they go into the world of work, I think it's going to be very helpful, because when you leave school and you go to the world of work, it's like culture shock. You're like, wait, what is this? You know, you have reports to do, you have, you know, you're working with teams. It's a lot different to secondary school or even tertiary education. And so those are very beneficial to young people and to anybody going into the world of work. So I think if that's something that can happen, then definitely they should expand those programs to give young people the opportunity to to gain experience.
And I would add to that and say this is something that has been a call for a long time in terms of creating opportunities for internships while you're in school. We have to acknowledge what our labor market is like. The economy is a lot of small employers, and not all have even a HR function. So you have small operations where, you know, like the owner is doing everything or have a small team. So we recognize that in terms of rolling out more internships, there will have to be a more structured and organized approach, and that's something we're looking at in the Ministry of Labor and also with the Ministry of Training and so on, in terms of how can we expand the opportunities for these internship opportunities during the vacation break. And that is offering support to employers to be able to take on interns and helping structure the mentorship approach and so on, and just helping organize that, because that does take some resources that some businesses just do not have. So it will require a coordinated effort that we are looking at doing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next question is from Happy Gilles. How can parents support young people without placing too much pressure on them? I'm going to pose this to you, McKena.
I think really is more so of a supportive role for the parents to play in allowing the children to choose the direction they want to go. So for me, for example, my parents always tell me, whatever you want to study, I will support you. Just don't waste my money. So for me, I understood that the support is there, whatever I wanted and not them. Because truthfully, if we think about it, and as a parent, a parent may say, I want my child to be a lawyer. But truthfully, the child's heart is in accounting. So the child will go to school because the parent is paying for it. But the parent and the child, then there's tension because the child is not really studying what they want. So I think that parents really need to just allow the children to choose the avenue. And I think once they are allowed to choose the avenue, they will be motivated enough to continue, and you just have to play along in the role.
And it may be
just
harder
take
to succeed if you're doing it just because you're trying to. Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. We have another question from Jason M. Could AI reduce the number of entry-level jobs available to school leavers?
I don't believe so. I don't know. I don't believe that's something that would happen in the short term. AI has its place, and AI can be used in a lot of ways to be more efficient at things that we have to do. So you may have a document that is 50 pages, and you can put it into AI to summarize it for you. So entry-level jobs, depending on what those entry-level jobs are, AI is not going to be able to replace a lot of those. What it would do is just give you more opportunities to be more productive, and to also have you focus, that entrant to focus on other things. So as opposed to, it won't replace somebody learning to file, for instance. If you're a file clerk, AI is not going to help you file. AI may just help if you're an administrative assistant, if you're taking minutes and you're recording the meeting, AI will then record the meeting for you, download those summary notes, and you will just have to put that into English, and it's gotten a lot better over the last couple of years, and that is where you get your minutes to go out. And that will save you 3 hours of transcribing, but you can do that in 10 minutes. And so it opens up for additional tasks that you can complete in a shorter period of time.
Mm-hmm. And reality is you still need AI. You still need to have skills in order for AI to work properly. AI is not perfect.
No, it isn't.
It still needs the human skill to function the way that it should.
And the critical thinking, and I think one of those things that we have to remember is that your critical thinking skills have to come into play, even when you're using AI, because you can't take it carte blanche. I think someone sent me a video early on, and someone was reading something in not Parliament here, but somewhere overseas, and AI would say, "Would you like me to continue with this?" And he read it and not even thinking about it, just going behind what AI said. So you have to use that critical thinking skill and just reading it over and making sure that it's correct before you put it out there.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. This one is from Gail Withers, 246. How can managers better support younger employees in navigating their expectations of the real world of work?
Okay.
I will help, and then
okay.
So
I'm sure Tisha, McKena can have a view on this as well.
Right. So I would share from our experience with Job Start Plus and working with employers that are taking on the young persons, having strong orientation. And being and structured approach to like introducing them to exactly what they're doing, a strategy for mentorship, so attaching them to work with persons alongside for a period of time and learn from them. Even something as simple as just making a point of having like a weekly sit down and having that open discussion, that dialogue, like manage expectations in that, because how do you think you're performing versus what is our perception of your performance, and addressing that and creating that space to learn and having that patience. I think that employers can do that to really get the most out of the young employees and untap that potential that all of them have.
I agree. I think that's important, having that structured, that what is this person going to be doing that first week? So you hire a cashier. What is that training program going to look like for that cashier? Do they come in? Do they spend time learning about the organization? And I think one of the key things before you even put someone on the floor, they need to understand what your company mission, your vision, your purpose, your value proposition is, so that they buy into the whole story of this company. It doesn't matter if the company is just 5 people or 500 people. And that story of the company, and when they come into the organization, if they understand what the business stands for, they are more likely to want to give more and to work more to give you that and to make sure the customers are happy. So even from that perspective, you do your orientation program, who we are, what we are, where we started. What is your role? How do you fit into this role? And Simon Sinek, I don't know if most people know him. He says when somebody comes to work for him, he says, it doesn't matter how long or short you stay here. I want you to leave here a better version of yourself. And he also says to his employees that I want you to also know that what you do here is of value to us. And even if you leave and go somewhere else, we want to know that you have been able to gain something before you leave here. And I think that's very important. And again, it doesn't really matter the role. You could have a mechanic shop. You can have a body workshop. Whatever that is, your employees need to know what you stand for so they can continue to buy in.
What was it like for you, McKena, when you first started working?
Well, I think more so those things are nice, but I could agree with Erika when she spoke about the mentorship. I think that's actually very important for a person entering the workforce, especially coming out of school, and also having a conversation, because we typically start a job and let's say we go on staff, but then we don't go through the appraisal process. So it kind of comes as a shock to the person at that point, like, I was being assessed on this. So they aren't really sure. I think sometimes as managers or supervisors, it's important to actually have a conversation, one-on-ones with individuals, and that actually gets you to feel this person on a one-on-one. Because sometimes you have persons that they're in a room and you bring in these interns. So for example, there were 6 of us when we started. And you may find that there is this one person that is just struggling or being left behind, but they're afraid to talk. But if you actually have the one-on-one with them, I recognize XYZ, ABC, you will find that that person can turn out to be one of your best employees. But if you don't really focus on the person or have that one-on-one with the person, they could be lost at the wayside.
Okay, understood. Okay, we have another question. This is from Marcus K. Has Barbados invested enough in creating quality jobs for graduates, or are we educating people for export?
Ooh. Erika, take that one.
I throw this out to the entire panel.
Yes, I think that we do have quality jobs in Barbados, but also there is going to be the reality that there will be oversupply in some aspects. And to expand, I think outside of Barbados, we are training and preparing persons to be global citizens. We want that you should be able to function and compete, not just here in Barbados, but overseas and other markets. So it's not to say that we're necessarily preparing for export, but enabling you to access the opportunities wherever they may be, whether they're here or anywhere else. So that's really the focus, to make sure that you are globally competitive.
Okay, you have something to add?
I think, and just to add to what Erika said, we do have great jobs and quality jobs here. And we have, students leave and they go overseas to study, and then they come back and they either come back to work here, or they stay over there to work, and then they send money back home or whatever. But I think what's really important is that the work that we have here is very good, and we have people who are, we have great opportunities in Barbados. I mean, a lot of technology is growing at a fast rate. I know one of the ministries had cybersecurity training. That's where a lot of, that's where the world is going now. People taking up those opportunities. And I know someone who lives in Barbados and works on TikTok and makes money. This lady was telling me her son works on TikTok. He stays home in his pajamas and he makes money overseas. And you find that type of work as well is really what you will start to see. And the world of work is going to change in a lot of ways. We'll still have lawyers and doctors and HR and that kind of thing, but you'll start to see a new change in terms of the types of work that people are going to be earning money from. And so you may not necessarily be exporting the person, but maybe exporting the services, but still being able to live in Barbados.
Okay, I have a question for each of you. If you had to recommend one thing for young people, to help young persons better equip themselves for the world of work, what would it be? And why?
I think for me it would more so be soft skills.
Core skills.
I don't want to say
core skills. Core skills. We're not calling them soft skills anymore.
Core skills training in school. I think that entering the workforce kind of throws you in a shock. Especially leaving school, if you haven't done an internship, I think it kind of throws you in a shock. Because whereas at school, you may say, I don't like her attitude, and I'm not going to have a conversation with her. In the workplace, you're forced to have that conversation. So the communication still has to be there. The problem solving has to be there. So I think that that's something that persons could really look at. Helping develop young people in communication, in speaking, in problem solving. I think those are very, very important, especially entering the workforce as a younger person and having so many different personalities to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
I tend to agree. I was going to say the same thing that McKena said, because if you're not prepared for that, as she said, it's going to be a shock when you get into the workplace. And I think one of the other things is really focusing because as I always say, I would hire for attitude and train for skill. And someone with a bad attitude, if you don't have the right attitude, when you get into the workplace, it's going to be very difficult for you to maintain that particular job. And so I completely agree with McKena. I think that core skills are very important to hone. Of course, your technical skills, of course, in the field that you're looking to get into, but being able to really translate that into when you get into the workplace and dealing with people. And flexibility, adaptability, all of those things are very important in the workplace as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Erika?
Well, I would say in terms of, yes, with the attitude, have a positive attitude, also take ownership of your own future, and really look to see what opportunities are out there and embrace them and make the most of every opportunity. So follow like the Ministry of Labor, follow the Ministry of Youth and different agencies that have a lot of different opportunities. They put on programs that you can access to better prepare yourself to learn and grow, and really embrace them. I would encourage all young persons to, with the Ministry of Labor, to engage us. We are here to support you and get assistance from like the Barbados Employment Career Counseling Service with your resumes, interview preparation. We're always hosting, facilitating workshops, join programs like Job Start Plus, take ownership and really have the attitude that you're gonna make it happen. And when people see that in you, they respond. They see it come out in how you are in these opportunities, how you engage, and then it comes out in the interviews and so on, and it helps to get you through the door. So that's probably the biggest advice I would say. Work on in terms of adopt an attitude, positivity, but also like ownership of your own future.
Okay, well, as we come to the end of tonight's edition of In Focus, we'd like to thank our panelists for sharing their knowledge and perspectives on preparing young people for the world of work. Thank you as well to everyone who tuned in and participated by submitting your questions and comments. Your engagement helps make these conversations even more meaningful. If you missed any part of tonight's discussion, you may watch the replay on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. And remember to follow BGIS Conversations on Instagram for highlights. I'm Sharifa Medford-Gilkes, and this has been In Focus.